Roger, copy.
All right. Well, I got the notification here from Mitchie that we're live. Um, so today we've got a proposal that we'll be discussing, and we'll be going through some project updates. Um, Before we start, I think I want to do just a quick uh, maybe walkthrough of how voting works for the upcoming Q4 or sorry Q1 Q1 sorry I don't know why I said Q4 but Q1 reward cycle. So if you go to um, contribute under projects, you'll see all of the current projects this quarter, and you can review their final reports. And if you have vMooney, you can submit your distribution. So um, you can see there's quite a bit of rewards here that are being distributed between these projects. So it's really important. It's a really important practice for our community to review these final reports and reward them based on the results. So if you click on any of these, it'll take you to that project. And then you can actually go and see the OKRs for that project. So this is the original proposal. And you can view the actual final report and how it went, the results, all of that is right here embedded onto the page. So this is the second time we're running it this way. So, if you catch any bugs or anything like that, let us know. There's always kind of like this rollout period as we're like getting this live. Yeah, and any feedback on how we can make this smoother, definitely let us know. But yeah, you basically can just put in, you get 100 points. So if you want to give 10% of the rewards to this project, you just type in 10 there. If you want 20% to go to this project, and so on and so forth, as long as it adds up there to 100 at the end. And as I'm doing this, we can maybe explain some of this on the page that you get a percentage. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It should take 5-10 minutes to go through and read the reports. But yeah, that's basically it.
One thing to mention is the deadline, which would be Saturday, the 19th. So in just a couple days at 8 p.m. EST.
Yep. So Ideally, just do it now before you forget. Even on this call, it's really important for our community. So the more votes we can get, the more we can kind of get this sort of crowdsourced intelligence from our community about what they think is valuable, what should be rewarded, and it helps inform us for future quarters. So yeah, that's all I wanted to share here about the cycle. I don't know, Mitchie, if there's anything else you wanted to add.
Yeah, I do. I just want to add that we're still looking for some community circle distributions as well. I think all of our senators here are familiar with that process, so we don't need to really run through it, but it's the same deadline. So I just want to do a quick shout out for any one of our senators who haven't done that distribution yet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we can. I think it's just Colin, right? Needs to. So that I think that's specifically a message for you, Colin.
Colin, also Christina, I think, but yeah,
Christina. Okay, so both of them need to distribute community rewards. Cool. All right. Well, great. I think yeah, that's all I wanted to cover here. So we have one proposal that we're going to go through from Sarah, who's there in the audience. Sarah, if you want to jump here on stage, I can screen share so people can see the proposal itself. So Treasure Corp does financial dashboards, and I'm actually not very familiar with Treasure Corp, so I'm not going to give too much of an intro. I don't want to accidentally butcher it, but I guess I'll hand over the floor to you, Sarah, if you want to share a bit about what Treasure Corp is and walk through the proposal.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
And yeah, excellent. Thank you also for the invite. Much appreciated. So I'm Sarah Sawyer. I'm based out of Frankfurt, Germany. And we actually wanted to share with you that you inspired us to create this company because we believe that DAOs need support with informed, active governance voting decisions through financial data. It's also a potential use case to fill the blind spot for analysts who are looking very closely into this field. And I'm saying this as my day job is as a financial analyst here in one of the big banks in Europe. And it's certainly a great opportunity to see how you're growing and the mission you're on, and we believe in it as well. Also, I follow closely a newly set up Palestine Institute for Space, which is a very passionate project for me. So we, in this proposal, wanted to share with you that we've been building last year in Q4 a project as a startup together with myself and Hudler, who's not here today, or other ways. Both are engineers and in the design space who created this app together with me. And we are going to share with you a link right now. Let me just put it in the chat. And so we based our data source from the API calls of MoonDAO, which are available online. And I'm not sure, can I share my screen? Yeah.
I can share for you. There we go. Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you. Great, thank you so much. And please excuse the data. We're still playing with it, but the idea would be that it's sort of like a portfolio management dashboard, right? Where you just go in, sign up, and if you are a holder of multiple tokens of different DAOs, you'd be able to see them. We wanted MoonDAO to be our first pilot, just because we were very much attracted to the purpose of the DAO as well, as Other Ways was already in the community, and he brought us in. And then you see sort of the breakdown of the runway, inflows, outflows, which are main important information for finances, as well as revenue and expenses. We could not really categorize it from the online available data. We realized we would have to map that by ourselves, similar to how, I don't know if you've heard of Dune Analytics. There's a lot of categorization there, but the issue with the other analysis tools is you have to do a lot of manual work. So what we provide is a simplified dashboard where the information is just there for consumption. And I know you already built a really nice analytics dashboard, which also went into our thought process. And we just wanted to provide something even more in tune. Thank you. Yeah, so here you also have breakdowns of monthly outflows, inflows, and we just saw what was positive coming in versus what is coming out. And we tried to categorize them in ways that make sense. We also saw if there were fluctuations in the assets over time. These two, actually, the asset allocation and risk metrics, are still very at infancy stage. But in the world of wealth management and portfolio management, these are the major risk and asset allocation metrics you would typically find. And as I think the understanding of DAOs is growing in the communities, it would be great to add on top. Yeah, and then thank you. You have the governance dashboard. And here it's a very simple dashboard. You see the leaderboard, who's contributing the most in votes, etc. We thought it would also incentivize folks to vote more, because I understand that it's a gray area with voting, right? On the one hand, you need to understand what the proposal is. On the other hand, you also need to understand, okay, what's my impact? How am I influencing it? And I'm saying this as someone who's just onboarded only a few weeks ago, and thanks to Ryan, I think it was a work in progress for me coming into the DAO itself. We also have a reporting page. It's not fully complete, so I'm just going to drop a PDF in the chat. Oh, sorry, it's up. Thank you. Yeah, so the reporting page is showing a little bit more on the delta. So what have the changes been in the last 30 days? And we plan to add more discrepancies in terms of the outflows, inflows, breakdowns once we figure out which categorizations we can use. But definitely this one could be turned into a report. And let me just put it here in the chat. I don't know if I can just copy it in. No. I don't know how to attach something in the chat. I'm sorry. Let me see.
Is it a PDF?
Yeah.
If you click the plus button and upload file, it might.
It's not allowing me that option for some reason. That's fine. I can maybe just send it to you afterwards.
Yeah.
Or I can also share my screen after we're done. Yeah, so, and then the simulation page is showing some, so some methodology behind it is stress testing, and you have multi-factor risk stress tests, risk analysis, and single-factor risk analysis. And here, yeah, you can definitely play around. You can put like 500 investments, break it down in thousands or millions or etc., and then add some outflows and see what happens to the treasury. So example, if we're looking at two proposals and one proposal is a operational expenses category proposal versus something that we're investing, and then you click run simulation, a chart will come up which will show the runway cost. Yeah, the math behind it is still being logicized, but it should show like how much do we have left in the treasury to keep going versus not. And just to give an idea if this proposal should be put through or not, given what's in the treasury. And then the scenario analysis, it's the second tab in simulation. So if we say a market, a whale buys out ETH and then the market drops or something, you can just put in a token and select the price change. Select, yeah, exactly, a token, please. Thank you. And simulate the impact. Well, Mooney doesn't affect anything because we don't have it in, we don't have it hedged in dollars right now, but yeah, for example, if ETH changes, this is the impact on the treasury. And the thinking behind this is trying to elevate how the market volatility impacts the treasury holdings. So this would also give a informed decision on proposals. And then the proposal impact, the third one, is not complete yet. But the idea of this would be, okay, if we have a specific proposal at the top, if it's a grant, etc., or something else, and then exactly what the projected treasury values would be if it goes through. And I'm just seeing questions. Okay, answered the question as I was talking. Yeah, so I could just share my screen briefly if that's okay for you. And thank you so much for sharing your screen. On. Okay, so yeah, here it's this one. Okay, so this is based on the fund fact sheet, so mutual funds business. And the idea behind it is to have a standardized report that people can pull and just look at and send whenever needed. I know sometimes you might be speaking, with investors in the background or potential users that you could, get them to join. And this is all just something we came up with from our experience, but we're also happy to change, some of the building blocks together if you have, more features you'd like to use. Yeah, and oh, hello.
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. For some reason, Discord is not open anymore on my end. So anyway, thank you. And that's my presentation of the proposal.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, so I guess I'll start just by saying that there's like, there have been a few moments in Moondao where like, we're just like caught totally by surprise by something like that's really amazing. And this is one of those times. Like, this is a really, really cool tool. It's very useful for us. It's like something that we currently do internally to do a lot of our planning. But yeah, having something like this is just amazing. And it's really cool to know that we helped inspire this tool. I think it makes a lot of sense to. So there are a few things that I'm noticing are missing, and that's just because on our end, like we have a couple different treasuries on different chains, and some assets that aren't tracked in our like main treasury. But I think if we include all of that extra information in here, we'd get like a full holistic picture of the entirety of the DAO's assets, inflows, outflows, and especially the simulation part is really, really cool. Yeah, I think this is super, super valuable. And the response in the chat, I don't know if you're seeing this, it's like everyone's saying this is really, really cool. Lots of hearts. But yeah, I think so. Just to understand, so the proposal is basically to have Moondao partner with you all to support the kind of rollout of this. Is that correct? Awesome. Yeah, I think this is great. Okay, I think so. The way that our system works is we do a vote here in this meeting between members of the Senate is what we call it, and then from there it'll go up to Snapshot. Um, yeah, I think Mitchie can. Yeah, it's zero MVP. Um, cool. I think yeah, we should still put it through the Senate vote though, Mitchie. Um, cool. I think Mitchie's working their magic here in the background. Looks like Phil also has some thoughts. Phil, really
Hey, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Hey, Sarah, this is awesome. It's like one of those things that you see it, you're like, how did we live with this? How did we live without this? I mostly am thinking from the perspective of a voter. So a lot of the times when I'm voting on something, most of the votes are like, people requesting funds or, you know, a proposed thing that would bring in money. And so seeing the potential impact, both inflows and outflows, is super cool. But as far as a use case, I can't think of much other than that vote that a non-executive board person would use. So is this meant to be for the executive board, for the community, or like who do you expect to be using this most often?
Awesome. Well, yeah, this is really, really cool. I think you should also talk to Jiggly Jams, who's supporting Decent DAO. They do kind of like a full feature sets for DAOs, voting, treasury management, etc. I feel like this could be a really cool tool to like incorporate. I think you guys would have an awesome conversation. But yeah, I think cool. I think this is live for voting right now in the Senate. So once that passes, we'll throw it up on Snapshot. And yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, and thanks for presenting here in the DAO. Yeah, and I look forward to working with you guys. I think we can put something together that's really, really cool and super valuable for Moondao. Thank you. Cool. All right. Great. So we'll also be going through project updates here. So we wrapped up the quarter. So there's just a couple projects that we're going to be going through. One of them is the Sea and Space conference put on by Christina Korp. She couldn't be with us here today. She's, I think, in full preparation mode because it's next week. But yeah, I'll be out there for about a week in London. If you or anyone you know is around, let me know. Should be a fun week. But yeah, beyond that, I don't know if there are any other big updates that Christina would like to share. I've been in contact with her, but she's, yeah, I think just fully heads down, getting everything ready for everyone to join out there in London. Cool. I think there is one other project. Maybe Michi can help me out here. Trying to find the agenda. Here we go. Found it. Yeah, the world's biggest analog. Enjabab, do you want to jump up here on stage and share a bit about the world's biggest analog? We have Enjabab with us today. We might not actually. Okay. Hey, Mitch.
Yeah, sorry, I don't think we have him today.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll try to get updates from him async, and yeah, I think we don't have that many projects right now because it's the beginning of the quarter, so it'll be a nice and short meeting. And yeah, we'll regroup next week, and yeah, feel free to jump into Major Tom after this if you want to hang out and talk. Like not recorded like these meetings, but yeah. Actually, well, we have Iman here. I think it'd be fun to get Iman and Titan's thoughts about the last Blue Origin flight. I think that's. We also have some. We met about the documentary project earlier this morning. I don't know if there's anything too much to update there, but yeah, Iman, what are your thoughts there on the ground? How's
Oh man, it was wild. As you can imagine, there was a lot of media behind this one. So there was a lot more people on site than usual. So normally during like a launch, I think there's somewhere like 50, 60 people, maybe more, but I think can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I think there was maybe like 300 plus people on site. Normally for the recovery, they only allow one guest to go out. There was, I think, 6 to 8 per person. So it was just a bigger event, as you guys probably saw, and because of its historic nature of like sending just women, a group of all women into space like that for the first time. It was cool because I'm learning more. It was my first time on Capcom as a trainee, so I was able to spend the time and see how mission control works, which is not a place I'd ever been. And I'd say there's a lot of similarities between what goes into spaceflight and what goes into medicine, because it's all about human safety, right? Making sure everything is being done correctly so that people can go to space and come back safely, or in medicine have a procedure with a good outcome. So that was cool. It was cool to see how all of that worked and all the processes and checklists. And I think this is the 4th New Shepard flight that left pretty much right on time. This was to the 2nd with no holds, which is pretty incredible if you think about human spaceflight. That's not common, but that is the end goal, right? We want these missions to be similar to like the regularity of like an airplane taking off, right? You get it down to such a science that you could send people with the regularity and a schedule that works, as opposed to just it being more chaotic. So I think it's a testament to New Shepard and to the team and to the work that they're putting in to try to make these flights more regular. This is the first time that capsule and that propulsion module had humans on it. So they're both human rated now, but this was a brand new kind of what they would call stack to send people to space. So that was also momentous for the program, because now they have two kind of propulsion modules and two capsules that can take humans to space. And as you can imagine, that can improve the cadence of how quickly they can turn these around and send people to space. So lots of momentous stuff. And it was just cool. Now I'll be curious to see what the next launch is like. Now that this one's done, it'll probably be much more relaxed or less wild of a deal, which probably good too, right? In other ways. But I was glad I could participate and be part of the crew that helped send these women to space.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, the Blue Origin CGI is getting amazing. The way you guys are faking all of it. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty wild, the amount of stuff online about it being all artificial intelligence. It's pretty incredible, and I guess to be expected, right? And as AI gets better, until we're
Right.
sending, your Uncle Bob down the street to space, this is probably how people are going to feel that they're just faking it. But I can promise you, it's not being faked.
Yeah, having seen now 2 of the flights, I guess this is your third or fourth now, right? Fourth?
Yeah, I mean, I was a guest for NS-21. I flew on NS-26. I missed, there's a payload mission, I think NS-29, that I didn't actually see the launch, but I supported. And then I was there for NS-30 and then NS-31 and viewed those. So yeah, I'm getting a few under my belt, as they say.
Yeah. Titan, what was your read on the ground? You're out
Oh, it was
supporting as well.
fantastic. I can assure everyone it was real. But Iman didn't tell us everything about his experience. Aman, I have to ask you, did you meet Oprah?
I did not, though. She walked. I mean, because I was working, so I guess I could ask more what's the word, selfies. I didn't actually ask any of the astronauts for selfies, but Oprah walked, like 1 feet in front of me with Gail's son, who I did know, and Gail's daughter. So I was with pretty much all of the people. The only person I wasn't with intimately in any setting was Orlando Bloom, but I saw him at the press conference. That's Katy Perry's fiance. But I got to meet, the astronauts, because as a crew member 7, you're integrated into that team of like teaching them, even in capsule communications, you're having lunch with them on a daily basis, so they know who you are because you're the voice, that they hear in the capsule. So pretty wild to be like, oh yeah, I went to work and hung out with Jeff Bezos, Katy Perry, Gail King, and Lauren Sanchez, and all of these really interesting people. But it's just I feel very privileged to have the honor to participate in this and participate in these historic missions with these people.
Yeah, living the dream, buddy. Well, from us guys who are on the outside of the fence looking in, it looked pretty spectacular. We set up this time on the southern edge of the public area. It's not really a defined public area, but it was about 0.3 of a mile south of the Astro Ranch entrance, which is where the local sheriff said that they're going to cut people off from driving through. So we got to see all the vehicles going in and out. I was there about 4:30 a.m., maybe closer to 5. Of course, nobody was there, but then the crowd started growing. And of course, we set up and did a live stream for Andrew Clifford's YouTube channel, and also had 80 of Amanda's friends and colleagues come out. We set up a TV for them and gave them a Starlink feed, and they were able to watch the Blue Origin feed from there. And it was quite an experience. Yeah, it was quite the experience. We did see you on the screen there for a second at one point. But what was really great was the being able to talk to these people like after the launch or before launch. We interviewed people in the crowd. We even connected with a group from. We even connected with a scientist who had a plant growth experiment going up with Amanda, and he wanted to talk to Ruben about his future flights. We've got him connected too. So it was a great day, very emotional. There were a couple times during the live stream we were watching, like when the crew egress, when Amanda came out, and everybody started tearing up, and Andrew and I both turned away from the camera so we could see us tearing up. But it was a lot of fun, and it's something that Andrew and I and within I-24 we talk a lot about trying to create events in those kind of things. So we're thinking about trying to do an I-24 event at Rubens launch whenever that happens next year or so. So we'll kind of use the same formula and bring people out and just have a reason to get together and talk about space. And that should include anybody from Moondao wants to come out. It's actually not bad. There's enough hotels. Listen, they did take up every hotel room in Van Horn with all the extra media. There was at least 2 full production crews, one for Blue using a truck from my company, and then CBS sent a full crew in to cover the event for Gale for CBS. So it was people spread a place, but there's definitely enough hotel rooms for a nominal launch without big celebrities and so forth. So people can be encouraged to come out and get a room, get up in the morning, go out there, and it's just really beautiful out there. I finally got a chance to look around rather than be busy working and so forth, and it was really beautiful area, beautiful sunrise. I mean, you're done by 8:30, 9 o'clock, or 9 o'clock, 9:30, so you can head back home if you need to at that time, or just hang around and party with everybody.
The other thing I'd say that was cool about this mission is they had 21 former astronauts or current astronauts show up. So like Dr. J, why am I blanking? Mae Jemison was there. Was the first African American woman in space, which is pretty cool. They had Dr. Sian Proctor was there. Jeanette Epps was there. Then Katie Coleman. They had Virgin Galactic astronauts there. They had all bunch of old Blue Origin astronauts. So I think there were 21 female astronauts, and if you count Jeff Bezos and myself, that made it 23. So it was neat to take a picture with all of those, with all of the astronauts. And I can thank Moondao for getting me there, right? None of this, I'd just be seeing patients in clinic today and yesterday if it wasn't for Moondao. So yeah,
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to ask, just because I've seen a lot of videos about it, Iman. I wonder if you can maybe you can quell the conspiracy theories. There's that like video of like the door opening slightly and then later being opened. What went on there? Why?
Yeah, there's an emergency egress hatch. So let's say something happens, you come down, there's smoke in the cabin or a fire, or there's like fire around the capsule. There's some reasons you have to get out, right? There's a reason that the crew has to get out because it takes a while for the recovery crew to come to the capsule, right? They wait for it to touch down and then they drive really quickly in. So there is a way to get out from the inside of the capsule. There's an egress hatch. And I don't know why the crew opened it up early. I think they were just excited, right? And wanted to come out. But the reason we want to wait for them to come out is to give them that moment in front of the camera, right? It's kind of a big moment if you watch all of these for people when they come out, that they can kind of share their emotions. So I think that's what happened there, is that they opened the door, they were trying to come out, and then crew member 7 said, "Hey, look, just give it a second. Let's get media set up so at least you can get that shot in front of media for everyone." So that is no conspiracy theory. There's a hatch. The astronauts can open it up, and so that's where we're at. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is funny though that like for some reason that was like a big deal for people. They're like, "What?
Yeah.
They can open it?"
Part of your
Yeah, of
training
course,
is you
of
gotta
course they
learn how to
can.
open it up because of just to make sure everything's okay, right? In
Right.
case you ever need to get out.
Yeah, like Phil's saying here in the chat, lessons from Apollo 8. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And the shuttle, you could open that from the inside too. And actually, I mean, Andrew and I have talked about this after the first shuttle flight with the payload specialists, which were not NASA like astronauts, but people that would come on like scientists and things like that. One of the payload astronauts, their research didn't work. So imagine you're training for years and you go to space and then the thing just stops working. It's not like that the research was bad, just like the system didn't work. And so he was pretty despondent. And so they used duct tape at that point just to close the door because there was like real concern he would like open the door and then kill everyone, right? So after that first mission, there was a lock that the commander of the shuttle could place on the shuttle door, on the inside of the shuttle door when they were in space, to just like get rid of that as even a possibility, which is nuts to think about, right? But But you could see how someone could be quite despondent. Now, we don't have that problem on New Shepard. It's suborbital flight. You're up and down with maybe like 3+ minutes of floating time. So no one's getting up and thinking like that. But, all these ships have ways to open the door because, like you said, it's a safety thing.
Yes,
Right.
and it also kind of follows along the way airliners work. You never see the person on the inside opening the door. It's always the person on the outside, and that's for safety reasons. But also, when you talk about opening the door early, the air pressure difference keeps that door closed up until real close to the ground. So even if
Sure.
somebody at
Sure.
altitude wanted to open it, they couldn't open it.
It'd be very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also see Frank in the audience. I'm curious, Frank, if you want to jump up here, because Frank had some interesting thoughts about the mission as well, and I thought they were very poignant. But I don't know if Frank is able to jump up here. Oh, we got
Hello.
Frank. Hey, Frank.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I was curious, what your thoughts were about the mission and the response, and what's been brewing in your mind around this?
Sure. Well, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm getting a message. Discord says it's not detecting anything from the mic. So, yeah, so I watched the entire flight from beginning to end. I found it really inspiring. I especially was moved when each person came out and had their say. And much of it was very overview effect like. I'm always quoting astronauts who say we're all in this together. And that's what Lauren said when she came out. Also, I've often said that the overview effect is about 3 things: truth, love, and identity. And the love part is love of Earth and love of humanity. And Katy Perry said that. So I thought, wow, it turned out pretty well in terms of, the presentation to the world. And there had been some criticism of the flight beforehand, but it seemed like it went off very, very well. And there, since then, has been a significant amount of both positive and negative coverage. And as far as the negative coverage goes, I think that a lot of that has to do with the state of the world right now. I think you can't separate a space flight from where people on the ground are at the moment. And we're going through a really, really difficult time, which I don't think anybody could have predicted that when the flight was planned. Really don't. I think most of us have been caught, in America anyway, we've kind of been caught off guard by the rapidity of everything changing so rapidly and so much uncertainty and so much change. So, I mean, that's one thought I had, which I think is what you were referring to, Pablo. The other insight that I got from it is that I think you have to have really, really clear messaging about why you're going. And I've been in communications all my life, and my work on the overview effect is really a communications effort. And one of the things you learn in communications is you're never communicating into, pardon the pun, you're never communicating into a vacuum. You're always communicating into previously created worldviews. And so I think all of us who see the inspiration of spaceflight and we see the meaning of spaceflight, why it's important, we have to realize that the world out there doesn't have that set of assumptions that we have. And we have to really think about what is our message. I think I would say that about every flight, not just this one. And so those are a couple of things that you and I've talked about. And we learn, it's a funny thing. SpaceX always talks about, yeah, we had a flight and it blew up, but we learned a lot. They're talking about the engineering of the spacecraft, but we can learn a lot from every flight about how to communicate the meaning of it. And if we don't learn from it, then we'll make the same mistakes again. But I'd just like to conclude, which was, for me personally, it was incredibly inspiring. And I think that everybody on that flight experienced the overview effect in their own way. And that is really what's important. Two people have that experience, which is unique and profound. So, as you know, I could talk forever about it, so I won't do that. But thanks for inviting me out.
Yeah, no, that's very well put. Yeah. Yeah, I think
And sorry, I was
yeah,
going to say, Frank and I had talked about this, Pablo, about how my current role and then my prior flight gives me a front row seat. And I would have to agree, because with every single one of these, I've done 2 human flights so far, and both times it's like my ability to talk to the people after and get their like raw, immediate response has always been very interesting. And I would concur that, yes, totally, all of them experienced it in their own way. Yeah, it's cool to see, right? Because you see them before and then you see them after, and you're like, yeah, even that short flight is quite meaningful.
Right. That's another thing I would just say briefly, is that before Blue Origin started flying, I was told, and also Virgin, I was told by a number of people that nobody on those flights would experience the overview effect. They were too short, and they were too close to the Earth. And my answer was always, well, why don't we just see? We don't know that. We'll find out. And I've interviewed a lot of Blue Origin astronauts, including Iman. There's no question that people have a profound experience. And it's again, it's very funny. A lot of the press covering the flight kept harping on it's only 11 minutes. But the truth is that 11 minutes can produce a lot of change. And it's really important to be scientific about it and just let the evidence tell you what happened, not what you think should have happened or could have happened or didn't happen.
right. Yeah.
The other piece of this, I don't know, sorry, is that it was pretty cool to see all the, Blue Origin helped it happen, NASA helped it happen, all the astronauts who came to support it. I did think that was pretty special, like to have many women astronauts come out, right?
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing. And Gail King said it best, to your point, Frank. She said, you know what, before you sit there and you talk poorly about what we're doing or this organization or Blue Origin or these flights, get out here. Come fly, come do it, and then you can make your opinion. But until you've done it, you really don't understand what the purpose of this company is and what they're trying to do, which is pretty cool. I thought that was really nice of her to.
Anybody who's ever been to a launch of any spacecraft picks up on what it's like and how inspiring it is. So, yeah, that's very important. Even if you don't fly yourself, if you can experience the launch, you're going to get a feeling of what it's all about. And again, I suspect there aren't very many people around the world who've actually been to a launch. And so spaceflight is such an experience, it's very, very hard to put into words. And so attempting to have people experience it is a good start.
Hey all, another Andrew here. Good to see everybody. Yeah, I was out at the launch as well, and really had a great time, and it was great seeing a couple of the folks in this call there. And Frank, I think I just wanted to loop back on something you said about the messaging and how important that messaging was, and I think you said it very well, but it prompted a question in my head, and I don't think it's a question that we need to or we can answer right now because I think it's a hard one, but I think the messaging in a lot of ways may have been there, and if you look, beyond the official live stream as well, there's a lot more really, really good messaging out there as well from some of the communities, Amanda's community, all that. But how do you, the folk, most of the naysayers here won't care enough to look into the messaging. They won't bother watching the stream. They won't give themselves that chance to hear the messaging. So how, I agree that the messaging needs to be very important, but the people that need to hear it most won't.
Well, that's a really good point. I suppose one thing that you have to take into account is that you control what you can control, and you also realize that, you can't control all of what's going to go out there into what I call the infosphere. And so you do your best. I had somebody who I'm close to say, and this is not something I had thought before, but he said any coverage of space is better than no coverage. Now that's an interesting idea if you think about it. The people who wrote positive stories about the flight made a contribution to knowledge about this. His attitude was, if I understood it correctly, people who wrote negatively about it still generated interest. And his idea, I think, was it's better to be criticized than ignored. Not sure how I feel about that, but I wonder how you feel about it.
Well, Frank, that kind of goes back to the old adage: there's no such thing as bad press. You're getting people's attention regardless. And you're right. And Lambda, your point's taken that there will always be people who will criticize and never look into it, and they're beyond our reach. But that doesn't mean you give up, and you continue the messaging, and you gently bring everybody in. Yelling and screaming and posting doesn't change anybody's mind, but just continuing to do what we do. And that's some of the best advice I've ever got, is just keep doing what you're doing. And eventually people come around, people mature, people realize, well, this isn't a one-off deal. Maybe NS54 will have a ton of more people out there watching from the fence.
I remember one astronaut that I interviewed for my book, and I don't recall who it was. Might have been, well, I shouldn't say because I can't remember who it was, but at the end of the interview, I said, is there something you want to say that I haven't asked you? And he said, I would say that space exploration is going to happen no matter what anybody says about it or does about it. It is going to happen. And it's just an inevitable part of the human story. I'm kind of angling what he said, but that's another attitude to take, which is this is going to happen. This is happening. And if we keep doing what we're doing, it's going to happen. And so I think that's important to have the long view of space flight. I mean, gosh, I'm old enough to remember when there were no space flights. None. Nobody had ever left the Earth. And I'm also old enough to remember when there were two spacefaring nations. Look at where we are today. My goodness. We probably getting close to reaching the point where private companies have flown more people than the government. And there are many spacefaring nations, and it's happened. I mean, it hasn't happened as rapidly as a lot of people want it to happen, but if you look at the long view, there is an inevitability about human expansion off world.
Yeah, something that comes to mind is you know, so much of the narratives that are out there are viewed through this kind of polarized political lens today.
Yeah.
And something that I find interesting is that, for example, SpaceX seems to kind of resonate with maybe the right side of the political spectrum and has maybe allies there. But something I think strange that's happened, at least, and I'm this is just from my perspective. I'm not saying this is necessarily true or not, but it seems that Blue Origin is somewhere in the mind sphere where it's a little bit more left leaning as an organization, but yet it's being it's led by a billionaire, which is another one of these kind of like villains of the left. So it seems like almost Blue Origin is stuck between like two contradicting narratives, and it's like the allies in terms of the press or the narrative sphere seem to kind of pin it in a weird position because it's getting attacked by both the left side of the spectrum because it's connected to, say, billionaires, but then also the right side of the spectrum because as an organization it kind of leans a bit more left. I don't know if that's true necessarily. I'm just saying more from maybe a perspective side of things. So I think it's kind of pinned in this strange position.
It's interesting. Many people, the very fact that someone is a billionaire is a negative. And I've heard people say we should structure our country so that you can't become a billionaire. And so I've always said to people like that, have you ever actually looked at the plans for the billionaires? Have you decided whether you agree that we should go to Mars first, or that we should build O'Neill type communities, or have you thought about what they're planning to do? Which in most cases people haven't. And then also, it's also contradictory because Richard Branson is seen as a good billionaire, I think. He's very environmentally oriented and so on. So just when you think you've figured it out, there's some contradiction. I noticed Jared Isaacman stories always start with billionaire Jared Isaacman, and I always thought it should start out with high school dropout Jared Isaacman. What a story, really. Look at what he's accomplished, and he didn't finish high school. So I go back to the point that was just made. You just keep doing what you're doing, do your best, and try to learn. Try to learn how to communicate more effectively.
Yeah,
Right.
Frank, I agree. It's to keep doing what you're doing and keep sharing. Keep sharing, whether anybody listens or not. Just keep sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the very least, it moves the conversation forward. Because that was pent up potential energy that was going to coalesce and find a way to spark at some point. And so I think that spark was kind of inevitable, and it's good to just kind of get that out there and have both
Yeah.
sides enter into somewhat of a dialogue. I think that's helpful.
And I guess, I joined a little late, so I don't know if you guys already discussed this, but I guess on the bright side of things, this road bump of public perception could be a sign that we're actually heading in the right direction. If people are concerned that, the people that we're sending to space aren't qualified enough, if we have that opportunity to not only send the most important, most qualified people, that's actually a good thing, that we're sending people that the public doesn't necessarily view as, urgently need to get them to space. So I guess we're getting more and more folks up there. Like, it's kind of backwards way of thinking about it, but it might actually be a sign of a good thing.
That's an interesting point of view, I think. Yeah. And also, I do think we've forgotten about it, but there was a very big backlash when Jeff Bezos took the first Blue Origin flight. Somewhat surprising. There was a lot of negativity, and it kind of smoothed out, and maybe this will do the same. This particular.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I think so, Frank. I
Yeah.
think I think the premise or the idea of anything people like Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos are doing is that you put your head down, even when people are talking, giving you negative press, you don't listen to it. You put your head down, you do the work. And 50 to 100 years from now, when we are sending people to space in a very simple manner, or maybe sending them from here to Tokyo in 3 hours because we figured out the suborbital idea, that no one's going to remember the TikTok person who made a funny video and saying this was all AI. They're going to remember that the company was there, did the work, pushed forward, right? And so I would absolutely agree with that sentiment.
I've often said, and I brought this up back in the first period of backlash, I've often said, how much do you know about Orville and Wilbur Wright? Do you care what they were like? Or is it really important what they made happen? I've read a little bit about them. I guess one of them was kind of weird. They weren't perfect. But they did something a lot of people said could not be done, which was interesting. And look at what we have today. Look at the airline industry. Look at the whole, I guess the space industry in some ways is also a descendant of Orville and Wilbur. So yeah, 100 years from now, what's going to stand out during this time?
Yeah, Frank, even in the short term, you can see people's predictions going awry. There's a recently read an article with about an engineer at SpaceX who had actually started his career at ULA, and when SpaceX started coming up and talking about getting 10 flights out of a Falcon 9 booster, this senior engineer said, I can see him getting like maybe 7, 8, 9 flights, but anything continuous to make it economically feasible, it'll never happen in our lifetime. Well, here we are, less than 10 years later, and I forget the booster number, but they had the leading boosters landed for its 27th time, and at this point, those things could go 50, and they wouldn't be a problem. I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the experts' opinions are not the experts that the media quote a lot of time are not necessarily experts.
Yeah, I'm very careful not to say anything's impossible.
Yeah, I saw a quote that it goes something like, if video games have ever taught us anything, it's that as you encounter more and more resistance, then you're on the right path. Like that wherever you're starting to see enemies or people attack you, like that's where you got to go.
Yeah. Well, I always go back to what President Kennedy said at his famous 1962 speech at Rice University. And he said, you know, we choose to go to the moon and do the other things in this decade, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And he had that
That's
wonderful
actually pretty good, Frank.
accent.
I was-
That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we can do hard things. We can.
Actually, in my experience, the hard things are actually the most satisfying.
Yeah. Sure. For sure.
All right. Well, I think that's a good note to close on. I think this was awesome. It was great to have a bunch of you all share thoughts, and I feel like it's a good moment to kind of reflect, after something like that enters into like the public narrative and just creates all these fireworks. And I think that yeah, it's awesome to have luminaries like all of you guys up here on stage and sharing your perspectives on the ground, and just, yeah, I think this is really helpful to kind of reaffirm why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing. And I think, yeah, it's important to kind of check in every now and then with the world and see how they're seeing what we're doing, and be able to have that dialogue. But yeah, thank you all.
Before we pop out, I just want to say that Sarah's proposal has passed Senate vote to reach quorum.
Great. Awesome. Okay, well, yeah, I think we can close up. Thank you, everyone. This was great.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care,
All right,
team.
have a good
Yeah.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Hi,
Have a good weekend.
Allison.
Bye.
Welcome to MoonDAO, a revolutionary governance model and mission-oriented community that's reshaping collaboration in the space industry. Our mission is to create a self-sustaining, self-governing settlement on the moon to act as a launch point into the cosmos. MoonDAO is governed like a nation, with its own economy, constitution, voting system, treasury, elections, and senate, but internet native, and so without the limitations of geography. In 2022, we sent our first member to space, showcasing our model's capacity for real-world impact. Now, we're implementing key solutions for global collaboration in the space industry. We offer a borderless, permissionless platform that enables everyday people to participate in the future of space development and exploration. Be part of our lunar legacy and join the MoonDAO movement today.